You can hear my son Yonadav in the background. He's about to be 3 years old. Not quite there, but we're close. And so getting him out of the room is a little bit difficult. So I'm going to let him be there and play. A few weeks ago, my family fell ill with COVID, so it's been a little bit difficult to keep up with the videos that I have been recording for the last several months, but I wanted to try to catch up as best as I could. One of the things that I wanted to do was make a video specifically for Parashat Masei, even though it was part of a double portion with Matot Masei. I had done one for Bantot, but I thought there was something very interesting in Masei that I wanted to communicate. Many years ago at the Spertus Institute for Jewish Learning and Leadership in Chicago, I learned about the writings of Rabbi Moshe Chaim Ephraim of Sudilkov, who was the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Probably his most famous grandson for his work, the Gel Machanaim Ephraim. And in this work, he comments about the Baal Shem Tov's view on the 42 stages or steps that the children of Israel traveled through in the wilderness. In fact, they're enumerated in the parasha. And it's interesting because he relates this idea that they reflect not simply the historical places that the children of Israel traveled in, but they reflect a personal process that each one of us has to go through. What those 42 processes are not exactly enumerated, but we see that at the beginning, when the children of Israel leave Egypt, the Yetziat Mitzrayim, that's equivalent to birth, and of course the goal is Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, and that's Gan Eden, that's the Olam Haba, that's the afterlife, it's to be in the presence of Hashem. And all the things that come in between are the different steps and processes that we have to undergo. Now, one of the things that Rabbi Baruch Gelman says is that unfortunately, sometimes those transitions are not easy. We grow accustomed and comfortable within a certain circumstance, and we have to get to the next step. We don't want to, and sometimes the process to get to that step is difficult, but it's something that Hashem desires us to do because we're traveling along this path, hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, God willing, following the plan that God has for us. And I can see that in many ways in the last several months where my family has focused more intently on our own community. Before we were helping another community as well, and now we've reoriented, and we can see that this had to happen. It wasn't an easy process, but it's something that we can see is bearing fruit and is really reflective of a different stage in our own family and in the life of our community. Now, it's interesting because in the morning brachot or the tefillot hashachar, there's a blessing that says Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam it says, you have, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who guides the steps of man, or girds my footsteps, or prepares my footsteps. You could think about it in that sense. And there's a follow-up blessing, depending on the Siddur. Sometimes they're in different order. But it says, the follow-up blessing is that you have provided for all my needs. And what's interesting is this idea that even in the process of going from one stage to the other, as difficult as it may be, Hashem provides us with the equipment, with the resources, and with the strength, if we trust in Him, to get to the next stage. The children of Israel in the desert, unfortunately, failed many times. They committed sins. They didn't trust in Hashem, and yet Hashem never abandoned them. He may have punished them, and He may have allowed enemies to sort of rout them in certain cases, but He still provided manna for them. He still provided water for them. He still protected them in the great scope of things. And I think that's the assurance that we have, even as we travel in these different stages of life, as we go from one place to the other. Hashem provides us, and He girds our steps, and He makes the path clear. So I pray that in the midst of these very difficult times that we live in, unpredictable, that Hashem will gird our steps, and that indeed that we will realize that He provides us with all our needs, and all we have to do is pray and trust that Hashem is gracious and merciful.